I I hope that you're having a good time so far, and I want to welcome everybody to our webinar and thank you for putting in the time. And we have a really special guest today, one that I really like, but that's maybe I'm a bit biased. So we're having my partner to the company, the CEO of Anchor, Rom Lakritz, and I feel that, I get to benefit from being around him, and I want to share a little bit about his experience with everybody watching. So I'll start doing something that I normally really like doing, which is embarrassing him by talking all the good stuff that I know about him. So I think a really good way to start. By the way, Rom, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm really happy to be here. Really interesting to do a live webinar. You can really be yourself and just go with the flow. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this takes us.
All right, brilliant. So I think it's going to be interesting for people to hear a little bit about background about how we started. So I had the privilege to, my past experience, I had several software companies and I started investing in different startups. And I was fortunate enough to invest in a startup that were wise enough to take Rome as an external CFO to lead their IPO in London. And we really clicked. It was we had a really good chemistry. Rome is a phenomenal person. And it's very, very difficult not to like him. And he shared the idea of what we're creating with Anchor. Anchor being, for people who join us and never heard, we're revenue automation system that enables you to automate basically getting paid from proposal all the way to syncing your books with auto invoicing and auto payments, all weaved in together in one solution. And the premise was that during our experience, we always had issues with how that works, but we're going to dive that in a minute. So I met Rome and I really wanted to invest in him and his idea, and he had different plans. He wanted us to actually work together, and we said, let's talk a bit some more. And one meeting became 10, and here I am interviewing him as the CEO of the company. So for me, a moment of gratitude. So first of all, thank you for the journey so far. It's been remarkable, and things that I'm going to ask you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to butt in and compliment the things that you can say about yourself. So Rom,
okay,
I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself.
So I'll try to make it short, but I do think that understanding the context that what I've been through for the past 15 years will be impactful for the rest of the webinar. So at the end of the day, I've been an entrepreneur from the moment I remember myself. Okay, my first business was when I was in 6th grade selling flowers, and it moved to a business of babysitting and stores and events. But today, when and I'll get to the last decade, but today, what motivates me is the success of other people, and other people is our customers. It's you, the people that's watching now. It's friends of yourself. It's your clients. It's the team here at Anchor, and that's if it's on their professional side or the personal matters. It's the partners and literally anyone or anything I can add value to. When we go to the professional side of my work, in the past, I guess 12 years, I've done a startup. So I actually started, I'm a CPA, and I actually started as a service provider, bookkeeping, accounting, advisory. And I loved my job, kind of helped me help other people grow with their businesses. But billing and collection, like you said, it just didn't work. And I'm going back to 2011, 2012, didn't work. I found out that I invest too much time in it. I never got paid on time, never knew my cash flow. It always bothered me. And I was And since then, I've been looking for a way to solve it, which I did in 2019. In between that 2011 and 2019, I've done two successful acquisitions. So I got acquired from companies that I was part of the founding team at. One was actually a huge acquisition for $250 million. I did the IPO with the company that you mentioned that I joined early on. I have another successful company that's raised over $30-40 million in the past decade where I'm at the board at. And today I'm with Anchor, which is mostly for my soul.
I want to bother you just for a second. I know that you don't like to be interrupted when you're speaking, but I think it's important to understand a little bit about who you are in this. So you're just throwing it away. Yeah, I have another company that raised some funds. So he developed a company that develops antibiotics against resistant bacteria, just as a hobby kind of thing. The things that he didn't mention before is that he's, volleyball national team, like superstar soldier, like ace.
Went to Stanford.
So, the kind of person you're proud to bring to your mom. And normally it's very easy to be in competition or feel some sort of stress around people that are such high achievers. And something that I can share from working with you shoulder to shoulder is what I feel is really your biggest motivation is to see people next to you break their glass ceiling. Like really, like when they, even if they're striving, they're working hard, when they like hit that, this is what fills you in more than anything else that I see in person. So I think it's important, especially and everything that you're saying, I hope that people get it in the right context, is not to brag about anything, but to give a proper background to understand that there's a lot of experience here, and the objective is for everybody to benefit. So with that said, please continue.
Yeah, so I feel I can talk about myself, all day long. At the end of the day, I'm kind of like my mother once I start talking. But I think in order to understand the context, I manage companies of over 100 people, even 300 people. As a profession, I'm a CFO and COO and CEO, so management and logistics and the operations of a company, sales, marketing, like the overview of how to navigate good times and bad times. So I've been around from 2010. I've seen the 2012 challenges. Yeah, I'm seeing the challenges that the market gives us in the past 12 months. I've seen the good side, the bad side. I was an investor. I also invest for Andreessen Horowitz and others. So in context, I have some experience, and if I can share it, and someone will take one thing that will improve something in his life, then we've done our share today.
All right. So having this introduction, let's jump right in. So tell us a bit, fast forwarding to Anchor, what made you decide out of, numerous opportunities to do this specifically?
Okay, so super interesting question. So first of all, I actually wrote on this company, I actually wrote a checklist, what I want to achieve. And the first thing there was helping businesses in scale. So I was looking for the biggest challenges businesses have. Quite funny, the second biggest challenge in every research, if you look at Intuit, QuickBooks, if you look at Xero, if you just search on the internet, it's getting paid, which is very, very really the first challenge, by the way, is growing your business in terms of clients. And I believe Anchor helps with both of them. We actually started from helping getting people getting paid. I suffered mentally from it when I had a business, not getting paid on time, not knowing how the month is going to end, not knowing if I'm going to put money in the company to sell, to pay, for my employees, or get money out of the company. That it made things very, very difficult and very, very stressful. Before Anchor, or before we started, I've done somewhere around 12 to 18 months of research in different industries and different sizes of businesses. How do they do payments? Where are their issues? And really map the whole cycle from beginning to end, which at the end of the day brought Anchor to life as a proposal tool, and looking how all the challenges we have as proposal, if it's the time to draft and then we're sending late, so it's not received, or the client doesn't understand, if it's the converting at the end of the day our clients or our prospects to clients.
I'm trying to
some help.
I'm butting in and I'm focusing you. So my goal to asking that was to, go into not the technical aspects of the feature that you were trying to do, but rather, I think what you mentioned in the beginning, like what was the juice, what was maybe the pain or that triggered, and was it to, scratch your own pain, so to say, or, like find a solution that can make a dent, for other people from things that you've encountered.
So happily both, right? I had the challenges. I knew or I thought I knew what is needed, but I did the research, very long and detailed research on how to solve it. And the second thing is helping people in scale and really making a dent on how business is done. So you can look at Anchor. If you really look from a bird's eye view, people online shopping started in the 90s, or I think like 92 with Pizza Hut or Coca-Cola. It depends on what story you want to believe. It's time for business to move there and actually have a new way of doing business with a live agreement. And maybe we'll get to it, maybe not, but just work just like any other platform that works today online, with all the flexibility and all the automation that half of the world is enjoying.
So I'll spice it up a little bit with what I know that you were constantly preaching about. You're looking into basically the situation in the marketplace today, and you're viewing the amount of money that's traveling in paper checks, the amount of unpaid bills, the amount of unbillable hours that people need to sacrifice in order to get paid, and and
revenue leakage
and all of that. Yeah, so all of that messy thing, all the burnouts that it causes, like everything,
errors, fraud, the list is long.
But the main aspect or the bottom line of it, you're looking at it and you're saying, this is going to be solved. It's inevitable. Like it's not, humanity is not going to continue working in this manner, especially when there's another, industry or industries that have already figured out and solved it. So if we're talking about SaaS companies or e-commerce as a concept, they don't suffer from billing and collection or this entire motion as much as the businesses that provide a service, where they actually trigger an AP process for their clients. So we're getting this dance. So, elaborate on this a little bit about your vision into the future. How do you see these things, fall into place?
Okay. So at the end of the day, I'm trying to keep it in a high level, but at the end of the day, there are two ways to pay today. One is, it's called today's spend management, where you have a credit card and everything is completely automatic. You can really trust the invoice. That's the way we pay Zoom. It's the way we pay Google and Monday and online. And the second way is actually called the accounts receivable and accounts payable process, where you send a manual invoice. Once you send a manual invoice, you have an opening for fraud and a lot of types of errors. So the other side has an accounts payable process. It needs to capture that invoice and it needs to verify it in comparison to the agreement or emails or SMS or a call, and is it approved or not? That is a lengthy process, and it's filled with holes of errors and fraud. And the reason we need to do it is because a manual invoice is sent. What Anchor does, it anchors this relationship between the service provider and its client. It does the research, what the invoice needs to be about. It sends it. It makes sure the dunning emails remind the client he sees it. The client has full control. Yeah.
So I'm stopping you because I think we're both used to, and I do that all the time. We love what we do, and
yeah,
everything I think that we do is, leads to our day-to-day mission with the company. So it's funny how everything basically boils down to what you're doing today. But for the people that have joined us, they've joined us because they're looking to understand or hear a little bit more how you're able to harness that, entrepreneurial spirit into, the day-to-day business. So if we need to, in your opinion, what are the top 3 traits like business manager or entrepreneurs need to follow in order to make their business more successful?
Okay, so it's a complicated question, right? The answer would change in accordance to time, like the truth in the world. But if I think about it today, and I need to capture only 3, then the first would be persistence, no doubt, right? You have to persist. And at the end of the day, if you work hard and persist at what you do, it'll get you where you want to be. Saw it very, very clearly when I played volleyball. I was actually the shortest person in my school, but working hard for 3, 4, 5 years brought me to the highest level I could here in Israel. The second thing would be communication. I think communication is the basis of everything. It's the basis at the end of the day of building trust with your clients, with your teammates, with your partners, with your investors. The way you frame, the way you talk, it's super, super important. And the last thing, if we talk professional wise, but I also want to remember that we're people and we want to also live our lives and not only work, is balance, knowing to prioritize what you work on and what you don't, what you pursue and what not, and why. And I want to add one small thing on the personal side, which would be awareness, being aware of everything that happens, of every word for communication, of what you want to do for balance, and being aware on your what you want to be persistent about, and also knowing when to balance that out and when to stop being persistent.
Oh, that's so you're giving us, a diversity mix that goes against each other. It's thank you for that. No, I think that this can really resonate with people, especially after we've been through, the last tax season with our clients, and you feel that the lack of employees, the actual, increase in the amount of work and the complexity of the work really leads to burnout. And I think this is widely spoken, and maybe this is something that is for the industry or the space as a whole that needs to change. And I know there's a lot of conversations that go about it, but that balance, I feel that right now it's more important than ever. And especially if you want, I heard we when we're doing these webinars, I have the privilege to ask other entrepreneurs from the space, for the same tips, or the next question that I'm going to ask you is what's the best business advice you ever received? And what Eric Green said is something that I loved, is know what you want, really, really spend time in understanding what it is that you want. What is the purpose of the business? What do you want to get out of it? And I think that is what enables the balance that you're talking about, because so many times we have this, just the momentum of going and, growing, or, we want more, we want to grow, we want to serve, but not necessarily it always goes into the direction of what we actually want. So a lot of people may find themselves successful, but unsatisfied, or successful and burned out. And it's part of the journey. But I think, what you said really resonates with many in the space.
So super interesting answer for Green. I didn't have the time to watch the webinar. Now maybe I will. And it goes to something that we talk about a lot here at Anchor, and actually our product is also around that, but we call it in the company job to be done. Like, what's the goal of this meeting? What are we trying to achieve with this feature? Why are we doing this, and why are we doing that? So the goal and the North Star of what you want to do and why is super important, and I relate to it completely. When we're talking about the advice that I received, the first thing, so I have a few things coming to my mind. The first thing is actually my parents. Growing up at a very, very, very early age, my mom and dad always told me, like, listen, you can do anything, anything you want. You can also choose. You want to be a garbage man, be a garbage man. You want to be a soccer player, be a soccer player. You want to be a bookkeeper, be a bookkeeper. Whatever you want, whatever you choose, you have to understand that you need to work hard, and you need to be persistent, and be there for the long term. So that's the best advice that I've been using all my life. So thanks, mom and dad. I don't know if you're watching, but really, I've been preaching that to my kids, and I've been preaching that to anyone that would listen, that at the end of the day, you can't do everything, but life is challenging, and working hard and being persistent towards your goal. Adding Yari Green here is the way for success.
So I think so. This is a great thank you. This is a good segue to my next question, which is, what personally motivates you? What keeps you going, or what's your golden North Star? But leading Anchor. How do you navigate that journey?
So really, I touched it in the beginning. You touched it somewhere on the call as well. What really motivates me is seeing our customers grow, and the customers that do send emails and approach, and I talk with, and I meet with, I have very, very special and personal relationships with, and it just makes me happy to see them succeed and like you said, cross that glass ceiling. Seeing the team members here grow, both on the professional level and being more aware and improving their communication skills, or their milestones that they put up for themselves throughout the year, but also on the personal level and the personal journey, growing as human beings, understanding and learning things. That's what does it for me at the end of the day. You saying here on the call, listen, Rom, you've been an amazing partner, and you're helping me. That's what I strive for here.
My pleasure. We can do it every day. But I'm trying to be of value to people listening, and apart from listening to our journey and maybe learning from that, is if you let's say you have.
So maybe let me try to rephrase the same question to give. At the end of the day, the way I look at business, business is trying to improve some kind of challenge that someone has, right? It doesn't matter if it's Netflix, or we had a problem of not knowing what to see, or Zoom, or a chair, or whatever, or a bookkeeping, or a service provider. They're trying to improve some kind of challenge for the clients. That's their why, and that's what it's all about, right? It's about helping others with some kind of challenge. So maybe that clears it up a little bit and helps understand that at the end of the day, that's what, even if we don't understand it completely, that's what we're all trying to do.
It's a deep, interesting thought, because when you're saying that, I think a lot of, or the cynicism in me says, we're not only up to do good for people, and I know this is a big motivator for us, and this is like definitely what keeps us up, in the mornings. But a lot of businesses struggle, and especially in this time of, I think in this season of, or at least this economic season, a lot of people are struggling. So apart from the fact that they do want to serve, right now they need to potentially help themselves before they can help others. And I think this is a big part. And if we take the motif of, the oxygen and the flight, that you first need to, give yourself as a parent before you give your child. So that, how do you, like, if you need to take what we're talking about and really, let's say you'll have a one-on-one session with a fellow entrepreneur coming and asking you, okay, so I have this practice, what can I do to grow it? Like, what trades do I need to put in order to achieve this? So
the first question that, or the thought process that I would have would be, it'll get to Eric's green point, on the personal level. What are you looking for, right? Are you looking for a better bottom line? Are you looking for a better top line? Are we looking to monetize this year, or in 3 to 4 years, or 5 years? What's the time horizon? And from that, you start building a plan where you can execute on. I'm a big believer in planning and then execution, because it's, once you have a plan and you know where you want to get to, then the execution becomes more methodological than, trying to be dynamic and understand everything. And you have this plan that moves and it's dynamic because the businesses and the world is, but you know what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve, and your why.
That's very wise. Thank you. And I want to invite people that are listening to ask questions really freely. I think this is a session unlike others when everything is, there's a very specific topic. This is more for business owners trying to, look for things. So feel free to ask any question, and maybe, a different direction a little bit. We're in the software space right now. We're trying to, do and, make our dent in the world, but there's a different, financial climate than last year. And we're seeing a lot of changes in our space, and definitely that, leads to other industries as well. How do you see these things end up influencing businesses in general?
So it's kind of funny. I just met, I think yesterday, a partner at one of the, let's say, biggest one of the 10 biggest funds in the world, and he told me, a few years ago, everybody sold into software and they were doing so good, and everybody loved people that's selling into software. Now you became very hot, right? Because you're working with small businesses which are supposed to or didn't actually get hurt as much as software. So we see the tech industry trying to figure out valuations and trying to figure out what the business model is like, and is SaaS, and then a lot of questions that are there. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of unemployment in the US, and the small businesses are being affected, but not as bad as the tech industry today. So they're actually in a better climate than the software business today.
That's very reassuring. That's good news, I think, for everyone. And I think there's
true.
And it's true. And apart from that, we're seeing so many changes, and especially this year in terms of, technology shifts that, it's already become an obscene word, AI. Everybody's trying to shove it into any development or any conversation. But at the end of the day, it's going to definitely impact, we can say technology, not necessarily AI or any other thing, but it's going to affect businesses. And I know we're seeing it as a massive opportunity for businesses to actually cut on their learning curve and start adding, new things to their arsenal of capabilities. What do you feel that for, I said, the accounting or bookkeeping space could be, that needle mover, sorry.
Yeah, what would You mean what would help accountants in a... So in general, the generative AI space is starting to mature. It's not really, hasn't been there for a year or two. It's been there for a decade or two. And it's starting to mature, and products are starting to come out of it that are usable. And I think that at the end of the day, if you break down the work of a bookkeeper and accountant, you can find ways that it can save time and allow the service providers at the end of the day to bring the additional value, right? If you take, I just saw, forgot his name, but I just saw a post on LinkedIn by one of the first entrepreneurial writers, like one of the famous ones. I can look it up, in a second and write it in the chat for everyone, saying, ChatGPT is here. I'm not needed anymore as a writer. And then people started reacting, telling him, no, ChatGPT at the end of the day does the mediocre work. At best, it doesn't go higher than that, not today. And if you're good at your job and you're good with communication, the value that you can bring is much, much higher today than ChatGPT or generative AI.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I saw another funny thing. If we're talking about this, I saw a construction site that has, the wide sheets covering the construction site, and it says Chat GPT, see you do this, and they're constructing the building. And I feel that for the accounting space, and this is something that I covered before, both with Ron Baker and others, is the fact that I think this space has been blessed with the fact that they have such a big influence and such a deep potential for a relationship, for a meaningful relationship with their clients, because it revolves around, what's interesting for them, like their businesses, their livelihood. So
it's also, it has to be 100%, right? When an accountant and a bookkeeper and financial advisors work, it has to be 100%. You can't make mistakes, and generative AI is not even close to doing that, and it's not close to replacing anyone in this field yet. And when generative AI will get better and better, we'll just use it as a tool. You can talk about QuickBooks coming in '84, and you can talk to bookkeepers since then and tell you, yeah, there was a whole discussion of if QuickBooks is good for us or bad for us, right? And with every technology, it happens. At the end of the day, we're humans, we're dynamic, and we learn how to adjust and use these technologies in our favor to bring more value to those customers.
Amazing. So I think this is something that people already heard quite a bit. I don't know if they're, implementing it or using it and how they start, but I want to just, circle back to something you just said. Like, what do you mean about, doing it 100%? Like, this is their business. They do it 100%.
No, not 100% of the time. I meant that when a financial advisor gives advice, or a bookkeeper does his job, or an accountant does their audit or taxes, the advice can't be 95% true or 50% true. Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe I got it from the right source or didn't get it from the right source. It has to be on that experience and seeing a lot of things that are not public, a lot of things that happen, and knowing how to structure. Generative AI is not there yet. It can give you the 50%. But when you talk about money, and we say it at Anchor as well, the 99.9% consistency is not good enough. It has to be 100%.
I will add to that, for me, it's the personal ability to look into something that, with generative AI or technology, and at least for now, you need to instruct it, meaning that you need to have a really good, solid understanding of what it is you want, and then you need to guide it. With a human interaction, you can say, oh, I want this, and then, someone will dig a little bit deeper and actually understand what you need, not what you're asking and what you want, just by understanding that maybe you're like, okay, you have the notion that this is what you should be after, while, they can actually guide you to a different path. So if we're looking at this, and I think that if we won't have a lot of additional questions, maybe we can, wrap this up. But I want to ask, what impact, looking into the future, what impact would you want Anchor to have?
So as I see it, Anchor already today is changing the way businesses are doing business. They're giving a lot of flexibility, and on one side increasing your revenue, and on the other side decreasing on the cost, so improving the bottom line. And in the future, as we mature the product more and more, and we'll get to from account receivable to accounts payable to cash flow, we want to see it. We want to see it changing the way that businesses are doing business at the end of the day, the whole flow.
If I have my own definition of this, and I think we share the same concept, but for me, it's really looking into reality and understanding that we've reached a certain point with the technology that we have, and we can talk about DocuSign for that matter, and say, okay, they did a tremendous dent and they took humanity off paper into digital, and right now we're trying to do an extension of that and become from digital to fully autonomous or automatic, and free up and improve more things. For me, I would like to.
Yeah, so I completely agree, and I love one of the things that I heard DocuSign's founder say, that when he started DocuSign, he knew it was inevitable, right? It's the end of agreements in FedEx or faxes, and it's going to be digital now. But the thing is that they developed it on Adobe's PDF, which are closed and secure, and you can't change them, and you can't do anything with them. And the next generation of that, which is also inevitable at the end of the day, is digital native agreements, where these agreements both speak our language, so we can agree on them, and the responsibilities of the service provider and the client, but it also speaks computer language. So you don't need on that PDF generative AI and RPA and machine learning and OCR and a lot of technologies that at the end of the day don't work. And once you have this anchor at the end of the day, that this live agreement that is amendable and it can change and it saves all the history and it does everything you need, you can actually sit back on your chair and let it automate your invoicing and your billing and your reconciliation, and add value in a lot of things, where you can go, just like we talked about generative AI a minute ago, you can go and bring more value to your clients, and at the end of the day, work with them and improve their businesses.
Amazing. I'd like to, I think, finalize with the question that revolves around the topic of this webinar and this discussion, which is harnessing, the entrepreneurial capabilities and spirit into your business. So what is, how do you see that manifest in the business? And what, basically, if I try to be clearer, is what differentiates between having an entrepreneurial mindset in a business as a business manager versus just being, a business owner?
Okay. So maybe I'll try to explain that more, because it's something we thought about when we started and had that concept, but we see it more and more as we meet, we're coming up to the thousands of clients on the system, and we're meeting them, and we see a very, very big difference between someone that has, they call it they're giving themselves a job, and someone that has the entrepreneurial spirit and is looking to grow and solve challenges, and both on the personal level, but also the professional level. You see those differences in the goals they set. You see those differences in how they balance their lives, how they persist on different things. And at the end of the day, you see the differences on where they get to, how they how they embrace technology and change, and how they react. And I would go as far and even say where they are in their lives in terms of, you know, their mental health.
So you say being an entrepreneur is a healthy thing? I think my wife.
Maybe exactly. Maybe I'm the only one that says that, but yeah, I think that once you control your own destiny and you choose the goal right, and you work hard and you persist and you achieve your milestones, you're a happy camper, and you enjoy your life. And when you do that balancing act of knowing when to be with your family, and, you know, and prioritization and everything we talked about, then and it's not easy in any means. But the way I look at it, even someone that's you know, has a job as a lawyer in a big firm, at the end of the day, if you look at his journey, he needed to bet on something. He bet on studying law and invested a lot of money. And then he needed to bet on another thing. And he's kind of a small entrepreneur within his world, even if at the end of the day, he's an entrepreneur that became an employee.
I think we can wrap it up with thank you. And for me, it was inspiring as always. And I'm, again, very grateful for the opportunity to share this journey with you. And for everyone listening, I want to really invite you to ask us any questions, you know, not in the webinar, but we're very accessible. If you feel that we can help in any way along your journey as business owners, we'd love to help. And, you know, so don't be a stranger. I hope this provided some value to you guys, and, you know, have an amazing day.
I'll add one last thing. So I've done a few webinars in the past couple of years, and there are people that reached out after the webinar, you know, trying to talk with me, and I literally always answer. And I'm here, and I would love the opportunity to get to know anyone and help if I can in any way. And we're gonna be in Scaling New Heights. So if you wanna book time with me or just come up and say hello, I'll also be happy to meet and see where the journey takes us.
Amazing. So take him up on his offer, you know, invite him to a one-on-one and dig into his mind. He's a brilliant guy. So Rom, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you on the next webinar. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.